I mean, this conversation is, I feel like it's today's generation's conversation almost. I understand the conversation, and I overstand it, but I feel like it's a part of today's generation's conversation.
Salute to the subscribers, those that live beyond the Cypher. I am your host, Illskillz. This is Beyond the Cypher, the podcast that shows humanity in the superhuman. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. They cost you nothing. Today for episode 19, 83 till infinity, we have one of the illest still doing it for us 40-plussers. He's a Freestyle Sessions finalist. He's trained some of the illest in the game. As an MC, he's achieved red carpet status, and most importantly, he's used hip-hop to influence and inspire members of his community. I'm talking about none other than Style Element Crew's own, Artson. What up, Artson? How you doing, my man?
I'm blessed, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out to me and, asking me to come through and just share some words and, speak and just have a conversation with you, man. It's good. Always good.
No doubt, man. And like I said, we appreciate you, agreeing to come on the show and share your story, especially, me and you, we're in the 40 plus. I don't know your exact age. What's your exact age?
I'm 46.
Okay. Yeah. So you a little bit older than me, but we in the same, we in the same bracket. So it's always good to hear those stories. And, when we fast forward into the future and kids are coming into breaking 10, 15 years from now, and they want to know some history, it's going to be good to be told by the people, that were there. So even as a channel, we're kind of just building an encyclopedia of letting people tell their stories so that eventually you can come to Beyond the Cypher and you can just be like, oh, now I know what was happening in New York, what was happening in the southeast, the southwest, the northwest. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what we're doing here, man. So again, we appreciate you becoming part of that lineage. You know what I'm saying?
Well, word, man. That's one of the biggest lessons that I learned is to share my story. When I got down with Rocksteady, Mr. Wiggles was always like, yo, you need to tell your story, and share your story. Even the day that I got down, I remember being so hyped because I was finally a part of this history, and he was like, yo, I know you're hyped, but always make sure that you carry your own legacy and your own story. And just because you're part of Rocksteady, doesn't mean that you should always be sharing the Rocksteady story. You need to share your story, where you're from, where your people come from, the dances your people did, the things that you learned along this journey, because that's going to be what outlasts everything, So that really stood with me. Even before that, I was already living and vibing with Style Elements. So I was learning from Style Elements before I got in Rocksteady for that time period of my life. But even then, Quality is a huge mentor in my life, and he was always like the same thing. Yo, tell your story. Share your story. So that's a big lesson that's always stuck with me. So man, it's beautiful to be here, just talking about my life, what I mean?
No doubt.
Especially as a kid,
right.
Your life, what's that? What is that? You're always trying to seek, we have our heroes, we have our people we look up to, and we're not always looking at our story, being your own hero, being your own,
right.
Your own inspiration, So that's a big part of where I am right now. Is being proud of the things that I've accomplished.
Right.
The things that I've surpassed, so
no doubt.
Yeah, man, it's good to share my story. So thank you.
No doubt, man. And I think when you're humble, like you and, other people that I've been able to interview, a lot of times if you don't get a chance to tell your story, you kind of almost don't fully see the breadth of what you've accomplished. You know what I'm saying? Like when other people tell you, you're like, wow, I did do that, didn't I? You know what I'm saying? Or when you got to sit down and recall all of the things that you've been through, like what your story is, you're like, dang, man, I thought I was just living day to day, but I got a little bit of a legacy here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's part of the hard thing about living in the moment. People that live in the moment, you cherish those things, but it's hard to get to the point where you're really living in the moment all the time, and sometimes you're just so trying to get to the next thing. You're always trying to get to the next thing, the next accomplishment, the next dream. And you don't realize that, dang, you just accomplished this, you just accomplished that. And you're just like searching for the next thing always. And you've accomplished so many things. Next thing you know, you look back, like you said, and you're like, whoa, I accomplished a gang of stuff and didn't even realize it.
Right.
You have to live in the moment. If you're living in the moment, you'll appreciate those things, those times, so
no doubt. Man. So when it comes to hip hop culture, where does your story start that you about to get us into?
I mean, my story originally started in around 83.
Wow.
My parents were divorced, and I moved into my stepmother's house, and I had a stepbrother, 2 stepsisters at the time, and just going outside to play, I saw breaking. Just my brother took me to the neighbors. They were breaking in the backyard. I didn't know what it was, and they asked me to participate. They were just doing backspins at the time, just backspins, and I started to do it just because it was like something fun.
Right, it was like a game to you, probably, right?
Yeah, it was like a game and a challenge. It was like who could spin the most. That was the first thing where it was like who could spin the most, and that went on for a while because it wasn't all over TV. It wasn't at the time it hadn't even hit the movies really yet, and so it was just on the block. Like that's all I knew of it, and then I started to hear stories about what it was, where it came from, this is from New York, and then the movies came out, and then it was like, whoa, okay, I want to be a part of this, especially at such a young age, to be able to go to the movie theater and see, Beat Street, breaking.
To rock this house tonight, and hip hop will bring it in like to rock that.
And see them on the big screen, like that has such a big impact on a young mind. Like those were, to me, it was like watching Superman or watching any superhero and being like, whoa, and now I'm a part of this. Like I felt like this is achievable. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could do this. And then, so yeah, I knew from then, man, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do hip hop for the rest of my life. I knew at a very young age that I was going to do this for the rest of my life. My teachers thought I was crazy. My family thought I was crazy. My parents, everyone just thought like, this isn't even going to last.
Right.
Isn't even gonna last, and so that was it, man. I was turned on from 83, man. That was it, and I just kept on. I had my ups and downs throughout the journey. I think we all go through ups and downs throughout the journey, whatever life takes you, having to learn to grow into being a teenager, then a young man, then being a man, adulthood, maturity, like all those things take through these different waves. And on top of it, I grew up in the street. I grew up in the hood and having to fend for myself. There wasn't a lot of money around. So all those roller coasters took me like to different places that I shouldn't have gone through, but they gave me experience, but it was always hip hop. Even when I was getting caught up, I was still like caught up, but going and doing hip hop stuff, caught up and going, and it just kept me like this until finally it was just like, it just leaned one way. And I was like, oh man, like it's just leaning over here. I don't really got to do these things anymore. And I grew from them, grew out of them. And now I'm just here, man. It's like,
no doubt.
I survived it, yo. Yeah. I survived,
Word. So Artson, where are you living? So when this is all happening, what state are you in?
At that time, my very early was Texas. I was born in El Paso.
El Paso is a city in the western part of Texas right on the US-Mexico border. Due to its place on the Rio Grande River, the location has a storied history dating all the way back to hunters and gatherers in the Hueco Tanks area, Spanish colonizers in the 1500s, and eventually the start of the city itself in the mid-1800s. El Paso today is one of the largest cities in Texas and is a popular town due to its location and the college that brings students from all over the world.
Okay.
I was born in El Paso, Texas. I lived there till I was about 18, 19. My mom, like I said, my parents were split. My mom lived in Vegas since I was 5. So around 19, I got caught up and I got arrested twice within a month.
Oh, wow.
And a year, I didn't have my hearing for my charges till a year later. And at my hearing, the judge was like, right before he gave me my sentence or whatever, he was like, "Is there anything that you want to say?" And I was like, "Yo, if I would like to ask if I could move to Las Vegas." I was like, if I stay here, I'm gonna get in more trouble, and I'm gonna be back here to see you. Like, I'm surrounded by trouble, and if I stay here, that's where I'm gonna end up being. But I have the opportunity to go. My mother lives in Las Vegas since I was 5. I could get a job, and I could be employed. And he was like, "You could get a job out there." I was like, "Yeah, I have work out there. I could go do it." I was like, and I'd leave. And he was like, "Granted." He granted it to me.
Wow.
Yo, it was so crazy. He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yo, granted, you could go." And he's like, "You're gonna be on probation for 2 years, and we're gonna set you up with a probation officer out there and everything, and you're gonna have community service, but you're free to leave El Paso." And shout
out to him.
Yo, for real, that probably like saved my life, honestly.
Dang.
And I was out. I dipped out. I moved to Vegas, and at like 19 years old, and then 20.
Wow.
And I just stayed there for like 15 years or something like that. And I went through my things out there too in Vegas, like still learning. But
right.
Yeah, after that, it was like that early age was all Texas, man. It was all. I learned. I went through a different learning stage than a lot of kids now with hip hop or breaking, because back then it was just the people around you, your cousins, your family, your friends, and there wasn't like foundation. There wasn't these things there wasn't dance studios, there wasn't like writing classes or all these things that the kids have now. It was just
YouTube.
YouTube, all that. It was just like you learn, you show the homies, and they tell you you're whack or if you're fresh, and that's how you learn. Like they're either gonna be like, that's whack, or and that was my early stages, and I think that helped me with my creativity, and learning to be original, because I wasn't learning from somebody directly. I learned on my own, and then later on I learned about foundation. And I mean, when I found out all this foundation, so yeah, it was amazing to me. It was like, oh, what? This is like broken down. There's a science to all this. Like, this is amazing. But at that time, it was just all me being creative and being original and trying to stand out in my hood, in my block, and be like, I'm fresh around the block. I'm the freshest around here, And so that's what I feel like a lot of my style came from, is from early on in Texas, learning to be original and stand out in my hood. And then in Vegas, I learned foundation and stuff. And, so that's where I was. And I was down with Rocksteady for almost 10 years, like pretty much 10 years of my life.
Okay.
And then it went full circle, and I got down with Style Limits in around like 2011. Yeah.
Right. For more quality content from Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. Also, feel free to follow us on Facebook and IG at Beyond the Cypher. Let us know how we're doing in the comment section. And to make sure you don't miss anything from the channel, smash that notification bell. We appreciate the love and support. Peace. Until the next episode.